kind enough to share that information with me that they was gonna have their guys down there doing some filming. So if that's of any interest to you guys, you can catch it on Dare Live on Ustream. And I believe I kind of like 21 videos they have up there. And they did do several walkarounds showing some of the equipment. So pretty cool stuff. And that's all we got. Back to Net Control, KC8YQL.
Thank you very much for that. If you're on Facebook page, you can have a link to that. That would be probably appreciated by a whole lot of people. So, could you do that, please? Or do you not access people, or excuse me, Facebook?
Well, I'm one of these goofy guys that never did get on social media. And they tried to tell me that as a satellite retailer, I need to get on social media. That's the way of the future. So I guess I'm not with the future. But I don't have a Facebook account, so I probably can't post anything unless the Facebook page is wide open. It might let me, it might not. So if anybody else wants to put it up there, I really appreciate it, because I may not be able to do it. KC8YQL, back to the net.
Okay, thanks for that. As always, anytime anybody like to share the link on the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net page, that's always welcome. It makes it a great resource. People can go grab it later. You see something and you see the word Germany pop in your head and go, oh, D-Star in Germany. Maybe I ought to go look that up. So that would be a good thing. If anybody can post a link to that, that would be wonderful. So does anybody else have any news or announcements about Raspberry Pis or D-Star or radios or any other equipment? This is W7VFQ.
N0WIQ.
Okay, so one more call. Come ahead with your name and call sign if you have any news or announcements about Raspberry Pi, computers, D-Star radios. Come on ahead, last call.
N0WIQ.
Okay, I guess we're going to move into the question and answer period. And right now, if anybody has a question that they'd like to toss out to the group about your operation, please come ahead now. Please announce your name, your call sign and your name, and I'll recognize you one by one. Thanks. Come on ahead with your question.
KE0VK.
Well, it's going to be a short net tonight without any questions, so please come ahead now if you have any questions you'd like to throw out to the group about using D-Star, about using Raspberry Pis, microcomputers, etc. Come on ahead now.
N0WIQ. Gary in Loveland, Colorado.
Carrie, what's your question tonight? Thanks for coming there. This is so N0WIQ. Carrie has a question.
Well, I'm using a Raspberry Pi hotspot that I put together quite some time ago, and it links up to this, I guess it's a gateway, or whatever it might be called. And I had to reboot it before it even listened to you guys.
Okay, so you rebooted tonight? Sounds like it's working. That's good. I rebooted mine too. We've had some electrical outages, and I came in and my little wireless light was not flashing appropriately, so I did a reboot, and everything seems to be working now. So what is your question, Gary?
Well, my question is probably still the same one. Why do I have to reboot it every so often? Because it quits talking and listening to what I've got linked to after some period of time. I was on the net last week, and then things were batted around that sort of made sense, but I wasn't able to find out how to get into the firmware of the DV Mega card so I could maybe make a change.
Well, we also this as a group. Here's my take on it. Computers are computers. There's never been a perfect piece of software written. Sometimes reboots have to happen. Sometimes without a proper shutdown, a reboot or using the shutdown command, if you have any type of power loss, things can just get funny. Also, the longer these things tend to run, they do occasionally get buggy. So a reboot just kind of brings everything back to the surface, stirs all the little magic smoke up in there so it all works right. And rebooting is just something that has to happen. Like I said, I came in before I started the net, and my Raspberry Pi was just sitting there. I have a Raspberry Pi 2 with a USB Wi-Fi plug-in on it, and when I look at it, it flashes, and I can tell when it is not right. So I just went in and I reissued a reboot command, and everything came up, and it worked. So anybody else have any questions that might work with that? This is WS7VFQ asking if anybody else have any suggestions for Gary.
N6CAL.
Okay, let's see, WA7VFQ from KC9SIO. Jim, are you still monitoring?
Yes, I am. I was just holding to see if anybody had any suggestions.
T.
So it sounds like we have none. So I guess that will have to be the answer then. I did see that N6CAL did key up. N6CAL, I didn't get your name, didn't hear you say anything. Do you have a response for Carrie? Okay, I guess hearing nothing, Carrie, I guess that will have to be your best answer. Sometimes you just have to reboot. So at this point in time, does anybody else have any questions to the Raspberry Pi DStarNet? Come ahead with your name and call sign. No quickies, please.
WA7BFQ from KE0HDU, Blue, Northern Missouri.
Good evening, Lou. Thanks for coming in. Do you have a question for the Raspberry Pi DStarNet?
Roger, quick comment first. I do agree with you on the reboot. As long as it's not a very frequent problem, it's perfectly normal on the reboots. I have to do it online occasionally as well. A couple of weeks ago, we had some problems, I believe on one Charlie Steve's probably more familiar with the details than I am. But they said it came down to a couple of devices, megas probably, on the same frequency. Two of them with the same call sign, same frequency at the same time, and it locked up both the 6 Alpha and the 1 Charlie repeater, had them locked together somehow or other. Are you familiar with that, and any precautions or ideas on that, over?
Well, I will respond to that real quickly. Unless they were within radio frequency distance of each other, that should not have been a problem. Being in the same distance where your frequency would cross over to another PI, yes, you could lock some things up. That would be a very rare instance, I would think. I think that's worth noting. I guess the other thing we should check back with, and that's a good point, is what image are you using, Kerry? So I'm going to run it back to Kerry, and then I'll come back to you. And I didn't get your name. Why don't you come back? KE0HDU. Come back with your name, please.
KE0HDU, returning. The name is Lou. Lima, Oscar, Uniform. Over.
Yeah, I got that. Okay. So, yeah, that I did not hear about that. Maybe Steve, you got some more information, but I think unless they were in proximity to one another, and which is about a quarter of a mile, so that would be, they could be about almost a half mile of each other, and the radius is about a quarter mile on the DV Mega under optimum conditions. So, so I'm gonna throw that back out. Steve, do you know anything about that? KC9SAO.
N0 WIQ.
N0 WIQ, go ahead.
Well, if you have more than one Raspberry Pi in proximity, they need to be a little more than 7 kilohertz apart as far as the frequency is concerned. So since I have about 7 Raspberry Pi hotspots, I put them 100 kilohertz apart, so I don't have that issue. But the bandwidth of D-Star is about 10 kilohertz. So you have to have them about 15 or 20 kilohertz apart, at least.
Yep, that would be. So yeah, that could have messed some things up if people had doubles running doubles. I currently right now I have a Raspberry Pi running, and I have a Thumb DV that I'm talking to you from. But in the background, I also have a Sharp RF, and it's running almost I think it's running 8 megahertz distance. So you definitely have to keep your distance on your frequencies. And the other thing is I have a toilet locator on this side of the house, so they are nowhere near each other, so they can't overlap too much. I don't have them on the same desk. So, Harry, let's just check one more question. What image are you using?
I'm using the image from D-Star Commander.
The newest one or the older one?
Well, I built enough Raspberry hotspots that some of them even had to go to a newer version of that image. So, of course, the DV Mega has also evolved, so it required the newer image. Now, the DV Mega is a two-way radio. It's a transceiver of its own right. So, like I said, D-Star uses 10 kilohertz bandwidth. So you have to be more than 10 kilohertz apart for each Raspberry Pi hotspot using a DV Mega.
Okay, I'm guessing the best answer right now is just an occasional reboot. I mean, thank goodness cars don't run on computers. because they would be stopping on the freeway all the time unexpectedly, giving the blue screen of you just stopped on the freeway. So, rebooting does happen, and it just kind of gets things reorganized. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on with computers. Like I say, there's never been a perfect program written, so that just happens. Unexpected shutdowns, power drops. If I hadn't been home today at the moment it happened, we had a brownout that lasted about 2 minutes, and when my Raspberry Pi came back up, it didn't like the unexpected shutdown in that aspect, and I found that, and that's using D-Star Commander, the most current version, so 2 point whatever it is. So hopefully that'll give you some direction, Carrie, and I'll go back to Lou. Thank you very much for your thoughts there too. And I'm going to go back to Lou right now. KE0HDU. Do you have any more to add, Lou?
No, I just heard that, and it makes perfect sense with the frequency difference there. I was just curious if anyone else had. You did make a comment there, though, that I wanted to query, and I don't think you had the answer because you said point something or other. The latest D-Star Commander, you don't happen to have the number on that, do you?
I don't have it here at hand. I can look it up. Does anybody else know that? And I'll fire up Safari and take a quick look. So I'll throw it out there. Does anybody else have a thought of what the most recent D-Star Commander was?
W4LKS.
Randy from Four Lakes, I see you in there. What is the most recent D-Star Commander number?
Hey, it's Randy. Thanks, Jim, for being our host. 2.02 or 2.01, depending on whether you have a DB Mega or everything else. So I believe it's the 2.01 for the DB Mega, and everything else, the 2.02 supports the Raspberry Pi 0W. Anyway, if you don't have that, you probably just need 2.01. I notice Steve occasionally says 2.1, but 2.01 or 2.02 is the correct version. W4LKS.
Thanks, Randy. I knew somebody there would have it probably get it quicker than I can fire up the browser. So, thank you very much. So, there's that answer. So, thank you, Lou, for that question. That was good. Thank you, Carrie, for your question. Thank you, Randy, for your response. And I think we'll move on ahead to see if anybody else has any questions tonight for the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net. Well, it's a beautiful evening here in Blues, Washington. We're 60 miles south of Spokane. We have a temperature right now in the mid-70s outside. It is cooling nicely. Last night it got down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit here. Cooled the house off very nicely. Air conditioning didn't pop on until about 5 o'clock today. With that said, we're going to go back and see if there's any other questions for the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net. That was Filler, folks, called F-I-L-L-E-R. Anybody have any questions for the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net? Come ahead now. Okay, last call for questions. Come on. Anybody else have any questions for the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net? Come ahead now with your name and call sign.
20VK. Question, maybe.
So we've got John, KB0VK. Come on ahead with your question.
I'm really new with this stuff. How do you hook it up with, you want to run D-Star? How does that system work with the Raspberry Pi? Over.
Well, I'm going to tell you my experience with the Raspberry Pi. I have a Raspberry Pi 2 and a DV Mega single channel. I'm running D-Star Commander, and it has been pretty flawless. I only occasionally have times I need to reboot. It has worked quite well for me. I'm very pleased with its performance. The thing I like about D-Star is the fact that when you create your you can do it totally headless. You do not have to have your Raspberry Pi plugged into a monitor. I ran almost 8 months before I plugged into a monitor because I didn't have one that was convenient for me to use. So after about 8 months, I moved my configuration of my home around, plugged it into a monitor. But the nice thing about D-Star Commander is there's a subprogram that you run. You put in your call sign. You put in the frequency that you're going to set your DV Mega to. You then can put that on your radio. You set up some commands with it. There was about 10 or 12 questions you answer. I haven't counted them lately. I think there's a few more now that they have the Raspberry Pi 3. But you answer those questions, and it does all the settings then for your Raspberry Pi, and you go to your radio and you fire it up, and it just works. So that has been my experience. Anybody else want to tell about their experience using Raspberry Pis with D-Star? Come ahead now with your name and call sign. We'll share them with John.
N0WIQ.
N0WIQ. Come ahead with your experience using Raspberry Pi with D-Star.
Well, I had a spare monitor, and so I bought myself a USB keyboard and a USB mouse to make a full workstation out of the Raspberry Pi. Now, with an image for D-Star, with D-Star Commander's image, on the first boot, I go to the monitor and keyboard on my Raspberry Pi, and it boots up with things for the D-Star all the way on there. But the first thing I do is open a terminal window and run raspi-config. And that takes a sudo raspi-config. And that is a text-based program. The first thing on the list there is expand the file system, because the 4 gigabyte file system you get is really packed. You can't hardly do anything with the Raspberry Pi until you expand the file system. And then while you're in that configuration program, you can set a password to Pi, or change the Pi password. You can go into the advanced users and change or set a host name on the Raspberry Pi and things like that, and set it up so you can SSH into it. And then I found out that with the D-Star Commander image, it also sets it up so I can VPN into it from another system. So I did that because the screen's bigger and the print's a little bigger. But hey, that's my way I've done it every time I've made a hotspot, is I put it in this workstation system. And for the first boot, and away we go.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. And back to John. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't need to set it up with a monitor. You don't have to worry about knowing Linux. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can just, when you create your image, it goes on the image I'm talking about is you use a micro SD card as your hard drive for the Raspberry Pi computer. And that allows you to have that image on there, but you have everything you have. You don't even mess with any Linux or do any of the other stuff. And it's very, very simple using that system. So we'll open up to anybody else that has any suggestions you'd like to share with John. Come on ahead now with your name and call sign.
KE0HDU, Lou again.
KE0HDU, Lou, come ahead.
One quick comment on that. You were talking about the SD cards. That is something that occasionally does start glitching, and it's very important to make sure that you've got a good quality SD card. When I first set up my Raspberry, I was messing with a couple of different images and found out that if you use even a second-rate SD card, that it will cause problems. I've got one, and I won't mention a brand name, but I've got one of the better SD cards in there now, and I have done every single thing you're not supposed to do as far as glitching the SD card, and it has yet to fail. It's worked 100% every time, so it does make a big difference on the quality of the SD card. And for that gentleman that was on earlier that's had one running for some time and maybe having a problem with it, that could be an issue there where he's just gotten enough hits over the years that he needs to reload that software onto his SD card. Over.
Good advice, Lou. I totally agree. The better your SD card, the better your quality is. That runs true in photography too. I tried to use a couple of very, very cheap cards in a camera once, and they got corrupted. And once when I was pulling it out of, when I was taking it off my computer, I forgot to eject it, and I pulled it out, totally trashed it, totally lost everything I had. But better SD cards just seem to have all their flow go a little bit better, and they don't get quite so glitchy. So that is a very good advice. All right, Liv, yes, thank you very much. So let's go back to John, KB0 VK. Sure, I couldn't read my own writing there. It's KB0 VK. John, any other thoughts or questions you might have about that?
I saw somebody on the radio a while ago, and he said I should hook up with PSAR using the Raspberry Pi, and I should register with our IRCDB gateway. Now, I started trying to do that, and the person asked me to answer, and I wasn't sure how to answer these questions. Register with the gateway. Is that a good idea? Register the gateway, or am I making it too darn complicated? Over.
You do not have to use the IRCDB gateway. Like I said, when I got my Raspberry Pi, I set it up in a totally different area of my home. I did not hook it up to a screen. I did not hook it up to anything else. I used my laptop. I burned my image. I did my settings. I put it in my Raspberry Pi. I booted it up. I turned on my ICOM ID51A. And my Raspberry Pi, I could see that it was identified, that it was identifying my Wi-Fi in my home. I asked it to go to Reflector, and I got a response back connected to Reflector 029 Alpha. I was so thrilled. You don't have to have any of that other stuff. And you can do it, but I would suggest you start off simple, the simplest way you can, and not get all those other things in there confusing it. Matter of fact, to this day, I still don't mess with IRCDB. gateway. So anybody else with a short experience about that with John? Come ahead now with your suggestions or questions. Come in with your name and call sign first.
W4LKS, Randy.
Go ahead, Randy. What have you got?
Well, for a new D-Star user, I think he got it confused. He probably wants to register with an REF gateway system so that your transmissions can go over the network, through the gateway and over the network. So he said register with IRC DDB. You don't have to do that, but you would probably want to register your call sign with the U.S. Trust System, and you do that at an REF gateway, a D+ gateway. So your local authentic ICOM D-Star gateway, if you want to have the widest available way to transmit on D-Star. If you're only going to use an IRC DDB gateway based system like we use on these Raspberry Pis, then you don't have to do that, but you probably do want to register your call sign on a U.S. Trust gateway. Back to you, Jim, W4LKS.
So, Randy, just to be clear, I thought you absolutely had to register your call sign with that group.
Only if you want to talk on an REF reflector like the one we're talking on right now, REF 038. You don't care about talking on those. And here in the U.S., those are the ones that are most widely used. You don't have to do that if you're going to stick to your Raspberry Pi and you're only going to talk on X reflectors, stuff like that, then you don't need to register. W4LKS, back to you, Jim.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It always seems to me that the most logical is if you are not in an area that has a reflector, that you're not in an area that has, let me spit that out one more time in a second. If you are not in an area that you have a repeater that is connected to a reflector, you would have to, if you want to change reflectors, you have to be registered with the trust. And so I guess we'll throw that back to John, KB0VK. Did we cross up? Come back once more.
I'm listening to everybody. So I don't need to register. I think I'm talking out so much to register something. So he just said it would be easier, but I guess he didn't know that it was already registered. So can you be registered on two different things? Can you register on two different systems over?
If you are registering your call sign to be able to use reflectors, I would suggest you only do it one place. That is confusing, but I think once you do it at one time, it will be recognized by that trust system, and then you will be able to change reflectors.
I'm talking about two different gateways. You know, there's more than one, I guess. Can you be registered different gateways, or is that just one gateway is good enough, over?
From what I understand, registering once with trust is all you need to do. So then you can get into any reflector. It looks back at that trust log and knows that you're there and with your call sign.
Yeah, you can answer my question. I was sitting listening to what's going on, but I was thinking of buying one, and I got the guy on the radio a while back. He said, you got to hook up with D-Star with the Raspberry Pi and do this, do that. So he sent me a bunch of literature, and I printed it up, and I looked it over, and I got into it, and I'm lost and got confused what was going on. So I heard you talk about D-Star stuff, and Raspberry Pi, so I'll come in and see what I can learn from this group, over.
Well, we're certainly glad you joined us tonight. We hope we didn't confuse things too much for you. And we're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. I'm not sure where you're at, but figure out your time zones accordingly. Okay, we're going to throw out for any more questions tonight on the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net. Come ahead now with your questions.
N0 WIQ with an experience with D-Star.
N0 WIQ, go ahead.
Well, I had a local Elmer when I started D-Star. And we logged on to a website which we were directed to do with instructions out of the manual for the radio. And logged on, and we only had to log on to one place. Didn't really matter which one. Fill out the information on that website. And then it took a few hours to a few days, I don't remember which. But the manual says it'll take some time before you hear back that you are registered. And once you're registered, you can go anywhere on D-Star you want to go.
That is correct. It's very simple to do. Hopefully everyone has a good, receptive administrator of the place you register. I will try to find it, but there is a company that sells ham radio equipment that has we'll put the link on the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net, that if you have to register, you're brand new to D-Star, they'll get you done immediately. You can be up and running. We'll put that on the Raspberry Pi D-Star Facebook page, on the radio, because that's certainly like. And are using some radio to get the D-Star. Think about it. Okay, does anybody else have any questions tonight for the Raspberry Pi D-Star? Okay, last call. Questions for the Raspberry Pi D-Star Net tonight? Okay, nothing seen or heard. I think right now we're going to move into the check-in portion of the net. We will do check-ins, starting with whoever wants to check in first. Come on ahead and call sign check in. And so the question tonight, answer this when you check in. What is your most used go-to reflector? When you grab your radio on midday, whatever time, what's the reflector you go to the most? Come on ahead now with your name and call sign, and we're going to do them like one at a time. And let us know the reflector you like the best, even if it's an X reflector. Come on ahead.
N6CZE.
N6CZE. What's your name and your name, and tell us where you're from, and what's your favorite reflector?
Well, a very good evening to you, sir, and everyone on the net. N6CZE, the name is Gary, Golf Alpha Romeo Yankee. We're in Montclair, California. We're using a DV dongle tonight to get onto the system, and probably my favorite reflector is 14 Charlie. And that mainly because I've got a friend that listens for that up in Northern California, so we do that. But other than that, I kind of tend to listen to 1 or 30 because there's a lot of DX on there and a lot of really fine people. So other than that, not a lot going on here. It's just warm in Southern California, and I want to thank you for doing the net. And we're going to listen here for a while and see if we can learn anything about some Raspberry Pi. So back to you, sir. N6CZE.
Thanks for sharing, Gary. So there's one vote for 14 Charlie. I'm going to go ahead and check in since I've got the mic right now. And I will say that my favorite reflector is the one that most locals hang out on. That would be 29 Alpha. That one is based out of Utah, but people here in Washington State tend to hang out there. So we've got people in Washington and Montana, and then in California, and a couple other places that hang out there. So that's a really nice one for us. I'm coming to you right now on a Thumb DV made by Northwest Digital Radio Group. Very, very nice. I'm on a Macintosh computer using their Buster software that they have done a very, very fine job putting together. I have a backup here. I have my Raspberry Pi 2 with my D51A, and I have in reserve, I have my Kenwood PHD74A hooked up to a Shark RF in the background. So I have redundant systems. My Shark RF is not on my home Wi-Fi. It's hanging currently on my Verizon Wi-Fi hotspot, or Wi-Fi system, so I can do that. So that all comes over the phone system. But right now, I'm on my Thumb DV. So come ahead. What is your favorite reflector? Come on ahead and check in. One at a time. KB5HPT. KB5HPT. Give us your name and what reflector you like.
Good evening, and this is Lou, and I'm in El Paso, Texas. I would say I bounce around a lot. However, I'm probably spending more time on Reflector 55. So, other than that, I really bounce around because I'm on a net just about every night of the week, so so we're all over the place. Anyway, back to you. This is KB5HPT.
Thanks, Lou. Yeah, I knew it was Lou. I'm sorry. I have a space there. We're going between paper and screen. I totally missed your name. So anyway, thanks a lot. Nice having you here from El Paso. And 55, is that Alpha or Charlie?
Well, we use Alpha a lot. Also use Delta a lot for the RSMS1A Android app, experimenting with the pictures and the text messages, stuff like that.
Great information. It's always fun to hear what people are doing with their systems. So we're still doing check-ins. Come ahead now with your name and call sign, and recognize you. Come ahead now.
W7SSK.
Don, good evening, W7SSK. Don, what is your favorite reflector?
Hi, Jim, and hello to all on the net. Well, I like to hang out on 29 Alpha, as you do. And when things get too quiet during the day, when I'm out walking my dog, I will jump over to 30 Charlie just to get a little bit of activity going to listen to while I'm walking on the beach here at Mukilteo. So that's the two places where I'm most likely to hang out. We had a lovely day here in Mukilteo today, and my dog Rosie got to swim in the sound, so she smells like a fish. Well, at least she did until I give her a bath this afternoon. So that's what's going on at Mukilteo. So back to you, Jim, WA7VFQ from W7SSK, back to net.
Thanks for checking in, Don. Always glad to hear your voice. And I'm guessing who might check in next, but I'll wait to see who keeps that. Come on ahead, take the check-in. Name, call sign, name, in that order, and we'll acknowledge it.
And for IR.
N4IRR, Mike. Where are you coming from, and what's your favorite reflector?
Good evening to the net, and we're located just north of Atlanta, and my favorite reflector is probably 30 Charlie. It's local here, homegrown, if you will, and I can access it via the hotspot, or I can listen to it on on one of the local machines, which is always hooked up to it. So 30 Charlie has plenty of traffic and lots of stuff to listen to.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Mike. Glad to have you here. It's always good to expand that possible list. So there's another 30 Charlie list. I think that's the second program for them tonight. So let's toss it back out. Who else wants to check in and share your favorite reflector? Come in, name and call sign.
BE7XTT.
W4LKS, Randy.
Okay, I got two there. I got WE7XTT, Kim in British Columbia, and Randy, W4LKS. We're going to go to Kim first. WE7XTT. Come ahead, Kim.
Thank you. I don't really have a favorite. I don't get on very much right now. I'm on my dongle at work, and I just love to listen. I just walk around, see whatever I can find.
Thanks for joining us, Kim. I think it was the first time that we've got you on my net, at least. So welcome, and hope you have a good evening. And don't be a stranger. Join us frequently. Now we're going to jump up to a little bit north of where I'm located, W4LKS, and here Randy. I'm guessing what his favorites are too. Come on ahead, Randy.
Well, thanks, Jim. Yeah, it's Randy, W4LKS, the guy with the 4 lakes in his call sign. Near Spokane. Yeah, 29 Alpha is the one I like to listen to the most. And, of course, that one is operated by the Northern Utah Technical Society, the NUTS. They're very kind to allow us to, camp out on their A module. So, appreciate that. And we used to be on 35 Charlie, but that one just couldn't keep up on our Saturday night net, so we blew the doors off of that one. And the guys in Utah allowed us to camp out on their A module. Very kind of them, and that thing runs like a top. We never even see a hiccup on that thing. Sometimes I listen to 20 Alpha, that's the Philadelphia Digital Group, and then I jump around to 1 Charlie and 30 as well. So it just depends if I'm want to listen for people that I know or if I just want to listen. Hey, thanks for being our host. So I'll send it back to you. It's W4LKS.
Thanks, Randy. Randy is also one of our net controllers, and I can never remember what week everybody has, but I have the third week, and I remember tonight, and I'm here. I just climbed out of the pool. I did an hour of water aerobics at our downtown local pool, and that was fun. Got home, got showered, got my script out, and I got a sheet out to take the log with and everything. So